Hello friends, once again I am back at the behest of Harbour Press International in a series talk on FB Live. And I am sure you must be enjoying your tea at this moment. But today, the topic that I am going to talk with you all is going to be leaving an impact on our minds to such an extent that we will start taking initiative. The topic is about experiential learning. And in today's talk, I am going to talk something about the benefits of experiential learning, the complete cycle of learning as a whole, and finally, what are the roles of the senses in making our learning effective. But before I talk about all these three things, I would like to take you all to the ancient history of our own cultured country, India. We are, learning to unlearn all over again. But do we know that there was a well-established education system in ancient India? And there used to be residential schools which were known as gurukuls. Those gurukuls were having Herculean teachers to teach theology, philosophy, arts, military education, public administration, and many more. Probably these subjects are not being taken into cognizance in today's scenario, unfortunately, at school level especially. And the gurus on those residential schools were responsible for the holistic development of their students. Unlike today, the guru did not teach a class of 40-45, but instead they concentrated on some of the selected pupils only who were just 5 or 6 in numbers, with the evidenced contention that the best way of learning is teaching. These selected a few students passed on their knowledge to the rest of the group of children. We may call it a peer learning, which probably is likely to be in practice in today's schools, of all the peers in the same class. And peer also felt basically relieved by attending to the learning sessions being delivered by these senior people, those who were trained to pass on this knowledge and information to rest of the pupils in the classroom. But by and large, this education system underwent a lot more of changes after the British invaded our own country, and these Britishers basically encouraged their own practices and beliefs and brought about a complete change in the education system of our own country. Education became a part of the government sector rather than being owned by the local community. The textbook and the syllabus were decided by those people as per the guidelines being given by the education inspectors, who were normally appointed by the British government. The teacher's role was very limited to questioning the pupil, control, or maintaining discipline in the class. So such kind of teaching could only produce students with textual knowledge and a community of rote learners. This particular teaching learning process continued for a long time, decades after decades. Probably we have been producing the learners who are the rote learners and who have not learned the skills of life. Well, the situation keeps on changing, and our education in the contemporary times is still influenced by the British education system, but something new, something very substantial is now rapidly emerging. A concept of experiential learning is coming into existence. In the current scenario, we expect our learners to experience life. The new pedagogical skills and teaching methodologies which are emerging are splendid in training the facilitators and you know, helping the teachers to basically allow the learners to learn on their own. But contemporary practices yet remain to be imbibed in the current scenario, and throughout the country and world rather, I would say that introduction of various pedagogical skills and teacher training schedule has yet not been able to bring about constructive and productive outcomes on a large scale as it is required. But simultaneously, a general debate in the country for better quality of education has become the catalyst in bringing about the much needed movement towards the experiential learning pedagogy. And the special focus is there on hands-on experience through real-life situations to raise the competence level of the Indian students. But before we understand this concept of experiential learning, we need to know something more about it. So let us begin with what is experiential learning. How do we perceive experiential learning, and how does it affect the entire teaching learning process? So friends, experiential approach basically aims at making the educational environment student-centric. It is no more teacher-centric, because most of the time teachers controlled the class and did not allow the students to participate in the learning schedule. But now the time has come up when the students would be taking the forefront role in the classroom itself. Experiential learning also gives a control to the students over their own learning, and I was talking about it a few days back that the sense of creativity and learnability has to be created among children, and they take their own responsibility of learning, and their control should be over the place of learning, over the method of learning, over the skills they need to utilize for this learning. All these control has to be given to the students in experiential learning. They are also able to evaluate, think critically, make decisions, master the knowledge by constructing it in their own ways. In this experiential learning system, teachers basically facilitates or a teacher guides the students. Learning experience may be very much cooperative, may be collaborative or independent, encouraging the students to work together and learn how to question and evaluate evidence rather than accepting truths communicated by their teacher. So, this is all about experiential learning that I wanted to discuss with you people, and I am pretty sure it is clear to you. So once you go back home or you sit to have a cup of tea, you would ponder about it, that the changes which are required to be brought in the classroom situations are not very much challenging. Rather, they are the easy process that every teacher and every parent should take it up. Well, further, I would like to emphasize upon that this is indeed different and is now established as the future of education. Now, when I say future of education, it is a recommended pedagogy of almost all the countries in the world, and especially those countries which are considered to be providing quality and the best quality of school education. Now, in an article when I was browsing the website, probably I came across some of the points which are elucidated as the reasons as to why experiential learning in the future is becoming the future of learning and is true for school education as well. I would like to highlight some of the points in accordance with that experiential learning basically accelerates learning. Now, you know about acceleration of learning, because all of us are very good drivers, and when we accelerate, we take up the speed. So in order to enhance the speed of the learners to acquire knowledge and to understand their skills, to comprehend, this acceleration is required. Now, repeated learning or learning by rote has long been practiced in our country, and now it's being replaced by learning by doing. For a pretty long period, we have been asking our children to learn by doing it. Experiential learning methodology uses critical thinking, problem solving and decision making to deliver a training module. This has become an established method to accelerate learning. Furthermore, it provides a safe learning environment. Simulations are a part of experiential learning, and they can even use real-life scenario that depict several challenges, and which a participant will eventually face after the course completion. So it is only natural that mistakes will happen during the course of learning, and it is rightly said, when a person does not commit a mistake, he does not do anything. So let the mistakes happen. Let the children commit mistakes after mistakes and learn by committing mistakes. That's what the concept of learning by doing would come up. And simultaneously using simulations is like taking kids to a playground and getting them to have fun over there, or trying new things and learn in a safe, controlled environment. In this connection, I would like to add on something that I have heard Sadhguru speaking about his own daughter, that when there was a time for his daughter to take to his school, probably he took her to a jungle, to a forest, and allowed her to climb up the tree and experience life. Instead of buying toys for her, he would catch a snake and frog to show. So that kind of learning atmosphere which was created probably by Sadhguru for his own daughter probably is called experiential learning. The third point, which is very important in this connection, is that experiential learning bridges the gap between theory and practice. Now, by moving beyond theory to the realm of learning by doing, the pupil gets a first-hand experience of practicing what has been taught. And this plays a crucial role in retaining concepts and ideas. Retention of concepts in the mind is the most important aspect of learning. And if it is retained properly, probably the application of such retained qualitative learning would become fruitful in the life of any child. Experiential learning produces demonstrable mindset changes. There are very few learning methods, that can have a dramatic impact on the participant's mindset. Experiential learning is one of them. Not only an impact, it basically, leadership, quality, swimming, which cannot be learned by reading about it, that has to be experienced while learning any topic, any concept in the classroom itself, or even outside the classroom. So experiential learning further increases the engagement levels of every child. The high focus on collaboration and learning from each other benefits the participant, as it increases a lot more of engagement. On the other hand, since we find the participant is immediately involved in the problem solving activity or an event, the level of ownership of the outcome is very high. Experiential learning further is very effective for retention. It is personal and effective in nature. It influences both feelings and emotions, and it enhances the knowledge to a large extent. Not only knowledge, it also helps you to enhance your skills. It goes beyond classroom learning and ensures that there is a high level of retention of anything that we are trying to learn in our lifetime. So experiential learning has its own value, dear friends, and sometimes it enables the personalized learning also, and every program that basically needs to enable a journey through the phases like assessment, teaching and learning strategy, the curriculum choices. It is a methodology that is highly effective in meeting these requirements, and it enables the personalized learning as well. So we need to understand that experiential learning is not only to be defined. An emphasis on NCF 2005 has to be laid, which has defined the learning in a different perspective altogether. Now, at one point of time, the NCF says children learn in a variety of ways, through experience, making and doing things, experimentation, reading, discussion, asking, listening, thinking and reflecting, and expressing oneself in speech, movement, or writing, both individually and with the peers. They require opportunities of all these kinds in course of their development. Now, so to connect with NCF guideline that we have been for the last 15 years reading, experiential learning becomes relevant in today's scenario. Learning basically occurs through interactive experiences. Learning tasks are designed to ensure that children will be encouraged to seek out knowledge from sites other than the textbooks, in their own experience, in the experience of people at home, and in the community. They will be communicating the philosophy that learning and knowledge are to be sought out, authenticated, and thereby constructed. That opportunity, unless and until we give to the children, probably learning would not occur. And hence, experiential learning is important in today's scenario to be taken up into consideration. So, dear friends, our culture has always emphasized the value of learning from elders at home and in the society. Our culture has always taught us to remain connected to the environment, learn to do everything related to our upkeep ourselves. But in the name of Western education, we have lost that edge that we had over learning by doing. Even then, several Indian thinkers have been propagating this methodology in their own way. Each one of them has given a creative twist to the idea of imparting holistic learning. But it's very difficult for me now to quote all of them. What I basically once again be emphasizing upon is that experiential learning is based on the principle of learning by doing. It focuses on developing skills in the students through real life situation scenario. It is the way of learning in which it is the learner who guides the learning process, experiences, observes, reflects, and implements it. Now, this doesn't believe in compartmentalizing each subject. Remember this. All the subjects are interlinked, and it depends upon the learner what he takes away from his experience. Each learner will have a different learning experience. The learner basically plays a pivotal role in assessing himself or herself. Experiential learning gives a multisensory experience of learning by using all senses: auditory, visual, tactile, and kinesthetic. Now, these are jargons. It appears to be jargons, but then once you go and connect yourself with the dictionary, the meanings will come out, and it would be the relevant specified meanings that would help all of us to ensure that experiential learning takes place in the right spirit in today's learning scenario. And this is how I end up with the introduction of experiential learning and the part of the benefits that we are going to get out of it. We need to conclude here by telling that all these experiential learning has to be there, coming under a complete cycle of learning. So in the next few moments rather, I am going to talk to you about a complete learning cycle that happens only when a learner goes through all the stages of learning, that is called cognition, perception, behavior, experience, and reflection. Now, in this connection, I think if I quote somebody like David Cobb, who has been highly inspired by the works of Jean Piaget, rather, who is considered to be the father of experiential learning, his experiential learning cycle has been converted into different stages. Like stage one is the concrete experience. Now, the learner cannot learn merely by reading or observing. Any learner needs to actively participate in the experience by feeling it with all the five senses. The idea is to immerse in the experience, and learn it. And now this idea becomes very effective if we go to the second stage of the cycle, rather. Reflective observations. In this stage, what happens? The learner reflects at this situation before forming any opinion. The learner must reflect upon the present by connecting it to his past experiences. So reflective observation focuses on observing and perceiving. The third stage is there, something which is abstract, and it's likely to be conceptualized. So it is an abstract conceptualization. The learner creates theories to explain his experiences. In this particular stage, the learner gathers and analyzes the information and draws conclusions. Sometimes it may challenge the pre-existing concept, and this focuses on learning by thinking. The next stage is the active experimentation, and this is the final stage where the learner applies what he has learned while learning by doing. And I'm telling you that the learner can enter a learning cycle at any stage, but every learner must go through all the 4 stages to complete his or her learning cycle. Now, once this cycle is constructively, attended, probably learner turns out to become a master of his own learning. Now, in the third phase of my talk, as I promised in the beginning itself, I am going to talk to you about the vital role of the senses leaving an impact on the experiential learning, how effectively our sense organs and our senses help us perceive the knowledge and construct the knowledge in an applicable manner and make it more and more lucrative and effective in our course of actions during life. Let us take the senses one by one, and dear friends, I am sure that you are getting benefited out of my talk today. In each series, rather, we shall be coming up with something very substantial to discuss with you, which can help you, your organization, and your children to become a better learner in life. And let me now take it up that humans basically are primarily, I would say it is sight oriented. So we are talking about seeing, sight. Everything from the foods we eat to the clothes we wear, everything shows signs of visual influence. And I think we all agree that we take cues from visual stimuli as we absorb new material. In fact, it is stated in psychology rather, and our brain is mainly an image processor, not a word processor. Teachers can use visuals in the classroom like infographics, the flashcards, large images, and that is to be used to reinforce the key concepts and colors that stimulate mental cognition level of a child. Then the child is mentally present, and I always quote a term, AMP, active mental participation, has to be ensured in the classroom to see that every child is involved into the learning situation. Second sense that comes to my mind, and all of us do rely upon it, is the sense of sound. It is all around us. Hearing helps us to learn associations. Sound can act as a distraction as well, and sometimes it can act as an aid to get ourselves associated with something that we have already perceived in the past experiences. Now, whether it's the sound of the birds on a tree or the ice cracking in the middle of the lake, hearing teaches right from wrong and safe from dangerous, and it is a crucial part of learning throughout life. In terms of active learning methods, every child will benefit most from engaging in relevant group discussions, reading out aloud, and experiencing a positive feedback environment. Now, that's why I always suggest the teachers that whenever you plan out a program, you ensure that a child undergoes this situation of involving his senses, especially hearing. So when somebody is speaking, even in today's scenario on an online, teaching sessions, if the child is given an opportunity to speak, probably another 20 children online are able to hear. So that, group discussion takes place, reading aloud takes place. Studies have shown that, background music can help reinforce concepts, provided it is considered calming and not distracting. To that end, non-commercial noise such as instrumental music, nature sounds, and other vocalizations can help students focus their attention to the task at hand. So these can be used as a tool to engage the children in the learning activity. Now, as with the other senses, taste plays a role in learning key associations. Taste can teach us about cultural and local cuisine, just as it can teach about international cuisines. Like sound, it also helps us learn safe versus poisonous foods and salty versus sweet foods. It can also help in the classroom when learning about chemistry, geography, mathematics, history, and so on and so forth. In fact, one study at the University of California, Los Angeles, it shows that sampling foods with varying differences to account for the changes. After the testing period, the students have been able to recall their experience and associate what they tested with what they had learned. So this is how the taste plays a vital role in the learning scenario. Finally, the sense of smell is powerful, and some studies reveal how from years before, in fact, a study published in Neuropsychologia in learning and overall memory, scent can bring up negative connotations. So teachers should take care to introduce only relevant scents when students are engaged in learning. Incorporating nature trips can be effective in learning, not only for word or term association, but for calming effects as well. So let us now come to an end by thinking that the last category that I am going to emphasize upon is highly useful for experiential learning because it involves direct contact. And do you know what is that? It is the power of touch. Touch is a powerful sense after all, and it can release a series of emotions and memoirs that aid in learning. Since roughly are considered tactile learners, and the ability to touch while learning could be vital to their success. From building models to exploring ropes and knots, hands-on learning provides context and allows your child to reflect and engage. So dear friends, that's all from me for today. I shall be once again coming and streaming through FB Live on behalf of Harbour Press International with a lot more of insights and more relevant topic to share with you. Thank you so much for the patient listening, and thank you so much for your compliments and praises that I keep on watching when I am streaming through live. Thanks a lot.